You know, I feel like for the last decade, Superman has been portrayed as this dark, mythical, godlike figure, a portrayal that's not only completely contradictory to his actual character, but just flat out uninteresting. He's been viewed as this strong, silent ore farmer who's a complete Chad and is basically a robot. I'm looking at you, Man of Steel. But I think with the newest Superman movie, public opinion, especially with younger kids, will be a lot more positive, because for generations past, Superman was a symbol of hope, a symbol of good. He wasn't just the strongest hero, he was the kindest. He valued all forms of life. There's a reason that everyone loves Spider-Man, and although they're separate characters, Superman and Spider-Man are pretty much the same, and I think James Gunn's Superman portrayed him exactly the way that people have been waiting for. Because even though he's a superpowered alien from a distant galaxy, he's still just a man. Superman is probably a movie for kids. It wasn't made for the generation that grew up with Henry Cavill's Superman, but I think the reason it's resonating so much with younger men is because of what it stands for. Now, the movie skips over his origin story, and for better or worse, most of the familial themes are left out. But the movie does specifically go out of its way to prove Superman is just as human as the rest of us. This is done in a few ways, but the one I want to focus on is when he visits his Earth parents. When Lois and Superman arrive at his parents' house, the first thing we see is Clark's bedroom. It's not filled with some alien technology or some incubation chamber, it's just an ordinary bedroom, with posters of his favorite bands and sports teams. He grew up a normal kid, the same as any of us, and above all, he values kindness. When Clark talks with his parents, they remind him his choices are what makes him who he is, not his past or where he came from. His whole life, Superman thought he was guided by his Kryptonian parents with the thought that he was honoring their final request. But in his conversation with his adoptive parents, his real parents, we truly see Superman not as an alien, but as a human. Despite being Earth's most powerful being, Superman deals with the same issues as the rest of us. Loss, grief, love, he feels just as much as any of us, just like any other human, and still he chooses kindness. He doesn't run from his problems despite being scared. He doesn't shut down despite not knowing what to do. He puts one foot in front of the other, the same as the rest of us do, and he does the best that he can. In his final confrontation with Lex, his very existence is challenged. Lex points out Superman doesn't belong, that he's different from everyone else, and while objectively he isn't wrong, it's a callback to Superman's conversation with his parents. What makes someone who they are the choices that they make, and Superman reminds us of this. In his most desperate, trying times, he chooses kindness. In his absolute worst, most tragic moments, he chooses hope. Superman, ironically, is one of the most relatable heroes there is, because while he's a superpowered alien with unbelievable strength, he's the peak of positivity. I feel like social media has only made us more aware of the issues in our society, and it's created this ubiquitous sense of hopelessness among young adults. Everything's expensive, the cost of living has never been higher, and real human connection is being replaced by 30-second clips of AI chatbots. Young adults are having this sense of dread thrown in their face every time they check their phones. So in a world as depressed as ours, Superman stands out. His optimism, his kindness, he's not just inspiring change, he's inspiring hope at a time when we desperately need it. Because when so many people have given up not just on the future, but on themselves, all they need is a little hope. Toxic masculinity has become far too common on social media. The idea that a man is made by being this cold, emotionless Chad has become the norm, and it's ruining not just other men's mental health, but other people's expectations as well. And I think Superman is a reminder of what masculinity is supposed to be. It's confidence, sure, but it's also vulnerability, it's hope, it's kindness. You can't call yourself a man if you're unwilling to be vulnerable, and if others think that's weak, then you probably don't want them in your life. For me personally, I try to live by these standards as best I can, but recently I had something happen that caused me to question my very nature. That openness, that vulnerability, I gave it to someone and they threw it in my face. I was ready to fall into the same pitfalls that so many other young men do and cut myself off from my emotion, but I think this movie reminded me that I don't need to. Choose hope, choose something unique, and above all, choose kindness. It's not your responsibility to babysit other people's emotions, and if you give your full self to someone with full openness and vulnerability and they still reject it, choose kindness. Because other people's brokenness doesn't make you who you are, and I think no character shows that better than Superman. Thank you for watching.